or else. So first we're going to read the Bible, and then I'm going to tell a little bit about what happened last time, and anything that I missed, Kimmy's going to fill in for you. She is here and standing by and waiting to find all the things that I missed whenever I tell the story. But first, we're going to start with Genesis chapter 2. We started with Genesis 1 yesterday, and today we're in Genesis chapter 2. I want to point out, because this is one of my 50 favorite chapters of the book of Genesis, definitely in the top 50. But along with that, I just want to point out this is the first time when it says these are the generations of, and that's kind of like a theme that comes back to us in the book of Genesis, because it's talking about the generations of humankind and how they apply. I see I have a flashing light. Is this working? Somebody let me know if this is working. I see one person on. It's actually Kimmy, and she's standing right beside me, so I don't know if she's gonna be able to tell. All right, so okay, now it's not flashing anymore, so that's probably good. Fine. Okay, the other thing that I want you to note is that there are the 4 rivers, and those 4 rivers give us basically like a map to where the Garden of Eden is. There's the Tigris and the Euphrates, which we know, and there's also these other 2 rivers called the Pishon and I know the Pishon is one, and the Gihon. Okay, so it says the Gihon is around Cush, and the Pishon is around Havilah. So we kind of know where Cush is, and that is Ethiopia. And so I think that the Garden of Eden is a lot bigger than what we think it is. That's just my personal opinion. And also, at the end of this chapter, Adam gets a helper, and we're going to find out who that is. All right, so let's, without any further ado, I've never done that before, by the way, give you a little synopsis of what we're about to read. So let's go ahead and get started. Genesis chapter 2. As always, I am reading from the English Standard Version. Genesis 2. Thus the heavens and earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the 7th day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. When no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man to work the ground, and a mist was going up from the land, and was watering the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living creature. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is the Pishon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is the Gihon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is the Tigris, which flows east of Assyria. And the 4th river is the Euphrates. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Then the Lord God said, It is not good for the man that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. Now out of the ground the Lord God had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds, and to the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, and were not ashamed." By the way, that verse 24, is quoted by Jesus in Matthew chapter 19. I hope that you read that. I hope that we get to read book of Matthew sometime in this. I almost called it a podcast. This live stream. So we read chapter 1 yesterday of The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis, and I hope that you were here for it. If you weren't, I did see it has posted. It took a long time for the video to post. So this is the first time that I've live streamed directly from YouTube, and so I was watching it basically all night until I went to bed, and it hadn't posted. And I woke up this morning and I looked at it, and it hadn't posted. And so then when I was, it was either right before I got home, or right before I left from work this afternoon, or right when I got home. I don't remember which, but I looked at the phone and it had posted, and I was like, wow, it literally took like 15 or 16 hours for it to post. But I'm not gonna publish these more than once a day. So I've got a question, ENV Outdoors. How do you explain the Holy Trinity? I don't think that's really covered in the chapter that we read in Genesis. But if you're super interested, then I will come up with a crafty explanation so that I can kind of try to explain that. It's not really in the scope of this live stream, but thank you for your question. I appreciate that. All right, but on to The Magician's Nephew. What we read yesterday, there is two children. Their names are Polly and Digory. Digory has an uncle who is exceptionally normal. They find this secret passage, and Polly talks Digory into going through the secret passage. And they go through the secret passage to get to the apartment that's in their building that is unused. And they get to that apartment, and it's incredibly boring. There's nothing there. And so they just go back to their own homes, and that's the end of the story, because it's just kind of boring. Kimberly's laughing at me. Here's Kimberly to say how it really happened.
Hello, everybody.
Did you turn your mic on?
Yes, I turned on my mic. My name is Kimberly.
Just to hold it up.
Yeah, and I'm doing the synopsis. So what actually happened was Digory, he was brought to London because his mom was sick, very sick, and his dad was at work a lot, so he needed somebody to take care of him. And his his aunt and uncle were the only people available. So he's living with his uncle, who is actually pretty weird. He keeps trying to talk to Digory, and his aunt keeps stopping that from happening. So one day, he's playing with this person, the neighbor, Polly, and she brings him up to her secret hideout, which is in the roof, in basically the attic of the building strip that they live at. And they come up with an idea to go over and go past Digory's house to the old house that was said to be abandoned because there was maybe smugglers or ghosts or something. But they miscalculate the distance and end up going into the uncle's study, and they meet the uncle himself, who tries to offer them a chance to be part of one of his experiments, and they decline, and he offers Polly one of the yellow rings. Is that right?
I think it was the yellow ring.
Yeah, and by the description of the rings, I immediately thought Fruit Loops. it was pretty funny, but she takes the ring and vanishes into thin air, and we are about to find out what just happened. And here's Dad with the reading.
So we are on to chapter 2, and this chapter is called Digory and His Uncle, chapter 2, and let me go ahead and begin. It was so sudden and so horribly unlike anything that had ever happened to Digory. That's when his friend Polly disappeared. Even in a nightmare, that he let out a scream. Instantly, Uncle Andrew's hand was over his mouth. "None of that," he hissed in Digory's ear. "If you start making a noise, your mother'll hear it, and you know what a fright might do to her." As Digory said afterward, the horrible meanness of getting a chap in that way almost made him sick, but of course he didn't scream again. "That's better," said Uncle Andrew. "Perhaps you couldn't help it. It is a shock when you first see someone vanish. Why, it gave even me a turn when the guinea pig did it the other night." "What was that when you yelled?" asked Digory. "Oh, you heard that, did you? I hope you haven't been spying on me." "No, I haven't," said Digory indignantly. "But what's happened to Polly?" "Congratulate me, my dear boy," said Uncle Andrew, rubbing his hands. "My experiment has succeeded. The little girl's gone, vanished, right out of this world." "What have you done to her?" "Sent her to another place." "What do you mean?" asked Digory. Uncle Andrew sat down and said, "Well, I'll tell you all about it. Have you ever heard of old Mrs. LaFay?" "Wasn't she a great aunt or something?" said Digory. "Not exactly," said Uncle Andrew. "She was my godmother. That's her, there on the wall." Digory looked and saw a faded photograph. It showed the face of an old woman in a bonnet, and he could now remember that he had once seen a photo of the same face in an old drawer at home in the country. He had asked his mother who it was, and Mother had not seemed to want to talk about the subject much. It was not at all a nice face, Digory thought, though of course with those early photographs one could never tell. Wasn't there something wrong about her, Uncle Andrew?" he said. "Well," said Uncle Andrew with a chuckle, "it depends what you call wrong. People are so narrow-minded. She certainly got very queer in later life, did very unwise things. That was why they shut her up." "In an asylum, you mean?" "Oh, no, no, no," said Uncle Andrew in a shocked voice. "Nothing of that sort, only in prison." "I say," said Digory, "what had she done?" "Ah, poor woman," said Uncle Andrew. "She had been very unwise. There were a good many different things. We needn't go into all that. She was always very kind to me. But look here, what has all that got to do with Polly? I do wish you'd—" "All in good time, my boy," said Uncle Andrew. "They let out old Miss LaFay out before she died, and I was one of the very few people whom she would allow to see her in her last illness. She had got to dislike ordinary, ignorant people, you understand. I do myself. But she and I were very interested in the same sorts of things. It was only a few days before her death that she told me to go to an old bureau in her house and open a secret drawer and bring her a little box that I would find there. The moment I picked up that box, I could tell by the prickling in my fingers excuse me, that I held some great secret in my hands. She gave it to me and made me promise that as soon as she was dead, I would burn it, unopened with certain ceremonies. That promise I did not keep." "Well, then, it was jolly rotten of you," said Digory. "Rotten?" said Uncle Andrew with a puzzled look. Oh, I see. You mean that little boys ought to keep their promises. Very true. Most right, proper, I'm sure. And I'm very glad you've been taught to do it. But of course, you must understand that rules of that sort, however excellent they may be for little boys and servants and women and even people in general, can't possibly be expected to apply to profound students and great thinkers and sages. No, Digory. Men like me who possess hidden wisdom are freed from common rules, just as we are cut off from common pleasures. Ours, my boy, is a high and lonely destiny. As he said this, he sighed and looked so grave and noble and mysterious that for a second Digory really thought he was saying something rather fine. But then he remembered the ugly look he had seen on his uncle's face the moment before Polly had vanished, and all at once he saw through Uncle Andrew's grand words. All it means, he said to himself, is that he thinks he can do anything he likes to get anything he wants. Of course, said Uncle Andrew, I didn't dare to open the box for a very long time, for I knew it might contain something highly dangerous. For my godmother was a very remarkable woman. The truth is, she was one of the last mortals in this country who had fairy blood in her. She said there had been two others in her time. One was a duchess, and the other was a charwoman. In fact, Digory, you are now talking to the last man, possibly, who really had a fairy godmother. There, that'll be something for you to remember when you're an old man yourself. I bet she was a really bad fairy, thought Digory, and added out loud, but what about Polly? How you do harp on that, said Uncle Andrew, as if that was what mattered. My first task was, of course, to study the box itself. It was very ancient, and I knew enough even then to know that it wasn't Greek or old Egyptian or Babylonian or Hittite or Chinese. It was older than any of those nations. That was a great day when I at last found out the truth. The box was Atlantean. It came from the lost island of Atlantis. That meant it was centuries older than any of the Stone Age things they dig up in Europe. And it wasn't a rough, crude thing like them either. For in the very dawn of time, Atlantis was already a great city with palaces and temples and learned men. He paused for a moment, as if he expected Digory to say something, but Digory was disliking his uncle more every minute, so he said nothing. Meanwhile, continued Uncle Andrew, I was learning a good deal in other ways. It wouldn't be proper to explain them to a child, about magic in general. That meant that I came to have a fair idea what sort of things might be in the box. By various tests, I narrowed down the possibilities. I had to get to know some devilish queer people, and go through some very disagreeable experiences. That was what turned my head gray. One doesn't become a magician for nothing. My health broke down in the end, but I got better, and at last I actually knew. Although there was not really the least chance of anyone overhearing him, he leaned forward and almost whispered as he said, "The Atlantean box contained something that had been brought from another world when our world was only just beginning." "What?" asked Digory, who was now interested in spite of himself. "Only dust," said Uncle Andrew. "Fine, dry dust. Nothing much to look at. Not much to show for a lifetime of toil, you might say. But when I looked at that dust, I took jolly good care not to touch it, and thought that every grain had once been in another world. I don't mean another planet, you know. They're part of our world, and you could get to them if you went far enough. But a really other world, another nature, another universe, somewhere you would never reach even if you traveled through the space of this universe forever and ever. A world that could be reached only by magic. Well," here Uncle Andrew rubbed his hands till his knuckles cracked like fireworks. "I knew," he went on, "that if you could get it into the right form, that dust would draw you back to the place it had come from. But the difficulty was to get it into the right form. My earlier experiments were all failures. I tried them on guinea pigs. Some of them only died. Some exploded like little bombs." "It was a jolly cruel thing to do," said Digory, who had once had a guinea pig of his own. How do you keep getting off the point? Said Uncle Andrew. That's what the creatures were for. I'd I'd bought them myself. Let me see, where was I? Ah, yes. At last I succeeded in making the rings, the yellow rings. But now a new difficulty arose. I was pretty sure now that a yellow ring would send any creature that touched it into the other place. But what would be the good of that if I couldn't get them back to tell me what they had found there? And what about them? Said Diggory. A nice mess they'd be in if they couldn't get back. You will keep on looking at everything from the wrong point of view, said Uncle Andrew with a look of impatience. Can't you understand that the thing is a great experiment? The whole point of sending anyone into the other place is that I want to find out what it's like. Well, why didn't you go yourself then? Diggory had hardly ever seen anyone look so surprised and offended as his uncle did at this simple question. Me? Me? He exclaimed. The boy must be mad. A man at my time of life and in my state of health to risk the shock and the dangers of being flung suddenly into a different universe? I never heard anything so preposterous in all my life. Do you realize what you're saying? Think what another world means. You might mean anything. Anything. And I suppose you've set Polly into it then, said Diggory. His cheeks were flaming with anger now. And all I can say, he added, even if you are my uncle, is that you've behaved like a coward, sending a girl to a place you're afraid to go to yourself. Silence, sir, said Uncle Andrew, bringing his hand down on the table. I will not be talked to like that by a little dirty schoolboy. You don't understand. I am the great scholar, the magician, the adept who is doing the experiment. Of course I need subjects to do it on. Bless my soul. You'll be telling me next that I ought to have asked the guinea pigs permission before I used them. No great wisdom can be reached without sacrifice, but the idea of my going myself is ridiculous. It's like asking a general to fight as a common soldier. Supposing I got killed, what would become of my life's work? Oh, do keep drawing. Or do stop drawing, sorry, said Diggory. Are you going to bring Polly back? I was going to tell you, when you so rudely interrupted me, said Uncle Andrew, that I did at last find out a way of doing the return journey. The green rings draw you back. But Polly hasn't got a green ring. No, said Uncle Andrew with a cruel smile. Then she can't get back, shouted Diggory, and it's exactly the same as if you've murdered her. She can get back, said Uncle Andrew, if someone else will go after her, wearing a yellow ring himself, and taking 2 green rings, one to bring himself back, and one to bring her back. And now, of course, Diggory saw the trap in which he was caught, and he stared at Uncle Andrew, saying nothing, with his mouth wide open. His cheeks had gone very pale. I hope, said Uncle Andrew presently in a very high and mighty voice, just as if he were a perfect uncle who had given one a handsome tip and some good advice. I hope, Diggory, you are not given to showing the white feather. I should be very sorry to think that any one of our family had not enough honor and chivalry to go to the aid of a lady in distress. Oh, shut up, said Diggory. If you had any honor and all that, you'd be going yourself. But I know you won't. All right, I see I've got to go. But you are a beast. I suppose you planned the whole thing so that she'd go without knowing it, and then I'd have to go after her. Of course, said Uncle Andrew with his hateful smile. Very well, I'll go. But there's one thing I jolly well mean to say first. I didn't believe in magic till today. I see now it's real. Well, if it is, I suppose all the old fairy tales are more or less true, and you're simply a wicked, cruel magician like the ones in the stories. Well, I've never read a story in which people of that sort weren't paid out in the end, and I bet you will be. And serve you right. Of all the things Diggory had said, this was the first that really went home. Uncle Andrew started, and there came over his face a look of such horror that, beast though he was, you could almost feel sorry for him. But a second later he smoothed it all away and said with a rather forced laugh, Well, well, I suppose that is a natural thing for a child to think. brought up among women as you have been. Old wives' tales, eh? I don't think you need worry about my danger, Digory. Wouldn't it be better to worry about the danger of your little friend? She's been gone some time. If there are any dangers over there, well, it would be a pity to arrive a moment too late. A lot you care, said Digory fiercely. But I'm sick of this job. What have I got to do? You really must learn to control that temper of yours, my boy, said Uncle Andrew coolly. Otherwise you'll grow up to be just like your Aunt Letty. Now, attend to me. He got up, put on a pair of gloves, and walked over to the tray that contained the rings. They only work, he said, if they're actually touching your skin. Wearing gloves, I can pick them up like this, and nothing happens. If you carried one in your pocket, nothing would happen. But of course, you'd have to be careful not to put your hand in your pocket and touch it by accident. The moment you touch the yellow ring, you vanish out of this world. When you are in the other place, I expect, of course this hasn't been tested yet, but I expect that the moment you touch a green ring, you vanish out of that world, and I expect reappear in this. Now, I take these two greens and drop them in your right hand pocket. Remember very carefully which pocket the greens are in. G for green and R for right. G-R, you see, which are the first two letters of green. One for you and one for the little girl. And now you pick up a yellow one for yourself. I should put it on your finger if I were you. There'll be less chance of dropping it. Digory had almost picked up the yellow ring when he suddenly checked himself. Look here, he said. What about Mother? Supposing she asks where I am? The sooner you go, the sooner you'll be back, said Uncle Andrew cheerfully. By the way, we have kittens that we're fostering, and that's what all the commotion is around me. So just ignore it. It's part of the ambiance of the story, so just ignore it. The sooner you go, the sooner you'll be back, said Uncle Andrew cheerfully. But you don't really know whether I can get back. Uncle Andrew shrugged his shoulders, walked across to the door, unlocked it, threw it open, and said, Oh, very well then, just as you please. Go down and have your dinner. Leave the little girl to be eaten by wild animals or drowned or starved in the other world or lost there for good, if that's what you prefer. It's all one to me. Perhaps before tea time you'd better drop in on Mrs. Plummer and explain that she'll never see her daughter again because you were afraid to put on a ring. By gum, said Digory, don't I just wish I was big enough to punch your head. Then he buttoned up his coat, took a deep breath, and picked up the ring. And he thought then, as he always thought afterward too, that he could not have decently done anything else. And that's the end of chapter 2. So tomorrow we will read chapter 3, The Wood Between the Worlds. And the first word is uncle. So I hope that you're enjoying the reading of C.S. Lewis's The Magician's Nephew. If you are, please like and post in the comments what your favorite part is of the chapter that we just read. I hope to see you again next time, and we'll have some more adventure together. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. Bye.